So I normally spend the first moments introducing myself and the company, but Tony did an excellent job of doing that. I should qualify. My children are adults. They're like 22, 23, and they asked me if they could stop lava. I'm like, do you go to school? Do you pay attention? Nothing can stop lava. And also, I worked in a factory in college, and the last half hour before I went in, I spent with Bob Ross. The guy is like my hero. He taught me about the color ochre and titanium white, as another fan mentioned back there. So I'm duty-bound to mention that Safety First is the only vertically integrated manufacturer of fire-resistive glass framing and entrances in North America. And the purpose of this presentation is to just give you an overview of our market segment from our perspective. As Tony mentioned, it's a segment of Division 8 that has experienced significant growth, not only in performance, but innovation in design, creativity. You know, it's a product that for a long time was imposed upon a building, and now it's being incorporated as a design element and a key feature of a building's design. So let's start at, sorry about that. Let's start at the beginning, the very beginning. Since the dawn of time, humanity has sought to harness the power of fire. It's inextricably linked with our survival as a source of light and heat. So too is it linked with our impending demise as a potential source of destruction. And man's initial attempts at controlling fire were basic and simple, but effective. And as our wildly inaccurate, historically inaccurate caveman shows, we were heavily dependent upon it. Fortunately for everybody in this room, as our skill sets grew and fire became mobile, we saw an increase in the development, and our skill set got to a point where we could actually control fire to a certain degree. And with the help of innovators like Elon Musk, today you can purchase your very own flamethrower on Amazon. And I checked because it's in my queue, I'm not gonna lie. The price is no longer $1,333. It's now $2,000. And I was like, what's the deal? But it makes sense. Mother's Day is right around the corner. It's a perfect gift for mom. And so, you know, you look at this satisfied customer, you can see by the look in his eyes, he's thrilled with prospects of having the power of fire at his fingertips. He's thinking of all the things that he can finally accomplish with having the ability to incinerate everything within a 5-foot radius. As I was looking at this video online, my wife said, isn't that dangerous? I said, dangerous? What could go wrong? You have open flame and a fuel source strapped to your back. I mean, it's a recipe for success. So this little loop is sort of a microcosm of the heights and depths that we've achieved as a society. So, and it really doesn't have anything to do with my product. It just thought it was funny. So like our caveman, you know, his initial attempts were basic and rudimentary. So too were the initial products that we rolled out to the market. They were utilitarian. They served a purpose. They're considered fire protective, which means they can control the visual elements of a fire, smoke and flames. But they limited their value really to transparency. And there's limitations both from the code standpoint as well as aesthetics. So architects weren't really inspired to incorporate them as a key aspect of their design, limited to basic applications like door lights, side lights, transoms, perhaps a protected opening in a corridor. That'll change with the advent of fire-resistive systems. Essentially what you have is glass and frame working in concert to not only compartmentalize the visual elements of a fire, but also stop the transfer of radiant energy or heat that's created from a fire. So you can see from a design standpoint, a lot more flexibility and creativity involved. Today, we manufacture transparent barriers. They're not considered openings by code, but barriers that mimic the appearance of non-rated storefront window wall or curtain wall. Even to the point where we're into horizontal applications. This specific project is a 21C hotel in Nashville. If anyone's familiar with Printer's Alley in that city, buildings are built very close together, a lot of shared walls, not a lot of opportunities for natural daylight. One of the things that the building owners wanted was to incorporate art from the community in the common spaces, the lobby, and in lower levels. And the architect brought in natural light using skylights and a transparent or translucent floor. So this is a 1-hour floor that allowed the architect to achieve his aesthetic intent, utilize some creativity, and meet code requirements. So what was the push from the protective to the resistive? Well, clearly code development. And we saw a desire for safer designs in areas where buildings are built close together. So clearly, the population-dense region of the country, like the Northeast, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, wanted to create a design that made it safer and easier for occupants to evacuate the building or seek safe harbor and await rescue, and prevent a catastrophe from spreading from one structure to the next. The picture you're looking at is the Da Vinci Apartments. It was a development in Los Angeles. It was a wood structure building. And during the construction phase, a fire was intentionally set. It was a victim of arson. It was a pretty significant event, but one of the things that was really interesting is the building across the street, the Department of Water and Power, experienced $50 million in damage strictly because of radiant energy generated from this fire. Now, I'm not proposing that our product could have prevented arson, but fire-resistive systems compartmentalize the fire within the building. They also, when they're incorporated into the building envelope, prevent it from spreading from one structure to the next. So the glass in the curtain wall and windows exploded, street signs melted. It was pretty significant. So what happens when we pull these products to the exterior of the building? Well, a couple things. Certainly our primary focus is always to meet the building codes for fire-rated products. But then we have to deal with the elements, nature. So keeping unconditioned air away from the conditioned airspace, managing water, and then aesthetic continuity. Can we look like the balance of the building or the non-rated products? And the answer is yes. And that goes as far as matching mullion spacing, profile, finish, any high-performance low-E coated product that you may want to use throughout the balance of the building. All of that can be done through fire-resistive glass and framing. I should point out that our systems are available through CMAST, which is a tool for NFRC, where you can model the various components to predict how the product's going to perform in the real world and in the field. So, initially, those first couple of examples that I showed you, door lights, side lights, the architectural community really sort of accepted and tolerated our limitations. But over time, they started to demand innovation. And that's where we saw product proliferation on our end. And we really do owe a debt of gratitude to the architectural community to push us to constantly improve, better ourselves. So you see things like butt glazing. We can put two pieces of glass together and eliminate an intermediate vertical member. Sun control devices, which may not seem like a big deal to the non-rated fenestration world, but it is a big deal in fire-resistive barriers. We developed an outrigger that's incorporated into our system that allowed a sunshade to be supported from our system. The architect didn't have to compromise or sacrifice their design intent because they were incorporating fire-rated glass. And then finally, as Tom mentioned in his previous presentation, security is a huge issue in the world we live in today. And most of our systems now are what we would consider multifunctional, meaning they're fire-rated first, but then we can incorporate elements of security, whether it's bullet, blast, hurricane impact. Sometimes it's all three, unfortunately, depending on where you live and where it is, where the building's located. So, as I always advise designers, contractors, glazers, anything you can do to the non-rated fenestration products, you can do to fire-rated. I do appreciate your time and attention. I know it's difficult to tolerate sponsors, but we do appreciate our ability to participate in an event like this. So thank you. If you're interested in learning more, you can certainly stop and see us outside. I appreciate it.